at least. Okay, I don't know. You probably know more than that. The training was very helpful, but you know, every case that you have is going to be different. The circumstances are going to be different, and they change a lot. In other words, the characters change. And one time you're trying to find, say, a home for someone, and then all of a sudden that alternative disappears for one reason or another, and so you have to work out something else. Or if you have an older child, they frequently are assigned to residential training facilities, RTCs, and sometimes they don't work. I've had one child, young man that went through 6 of them. So, you know, you just have to kind of stick with it. So, I think that the training was very helpful in preparing you with some of the issues you're likely to deal with. And secondly, you know, realize that you're probably going to be exposed to some things and a lifestyle that you've not had a lot of experience with before. And so you need to be kind of flexible in terms of what your values are. The homes that you may find or the places that might be the best alternative for your child may not be totally up to your standards, but they might be the best alternative at the time.
Okay, so what were some of your experiences working with some of the professionals on the cases?
In the CPS?
CPS attorneys, caregivers?
Well, the CPS in our area, at least, and I've worked in two areas, one in the Belleville, which what do they handle?
Austin, Colorado, and Waller counties.
Okay, and now in Washington County, I think the quality of the CPS people is very good. I mean, it's amazing how motivated and how capable they are considering what they were paid. Now, there's been a huge, you probably read about it, dramatic increase in pay in city, and I think that's going to have a really positive effect on CPS. Here, I don't think we had problems that were as severe as in the city. They just couldn't recruit and retain the quality of people they needed to with the salary or the compensation system they had. But here, I think we've had a better situation. I have had no problems with people in CPS. I don't think you will either. I think they're generally of very high quality. And we haven't had excessive turnover here that I'm aware of, at least. So as far as the attorneys, they vary, okay? Some are motivated and good. It's not a lucrative deal. Some, you know, are less than ideal. And the judges, the 2 judges that I deal with, I think are very well, I think they're concerned about doing the best they possibly can for the kids and the families that are in front of them. They have different approaches, but I don't think they'll have a problem. I mean, most of them spend a considerable amount of time on these kinds of cases, and they're also very receptive to what, you know, the CASA representatives' views are. You know, they're very favorably inclined toward CASA. So I think you won't have any problem with the judges as long as you got your facts right and you express them clearly.
What are some of the ages of kids that you've worked with over the years?
What was that?
What are some of the ages of the kids that you've worked with over the years?
Well, first they started dumping teenagers on them. Now, those of you that have had teenagers, you know that teenagers that don't have problems have problems. As I told what's Don's last name?
McCarn.
Yeah, I said, Don, don't ever let the general public know that you will take teenagers. She says you'll be inundated with people that say, I can't handle this kid. And so they're a special problem. Now I have a 4-year-old, and it's a lot easier circumstance. That one is relatively easy because there's a family caregiver there that's ready and available and willing to take charge, where the mother was not really able to provide a suitable home. But I think as they get older, we've got to recognize that adoption is a very long shot. It's not a likely occurrence. I mean, there are people standing in line for cute little 2-year-olds. There are not too many standing in line for 15-year-olds. Okay, so it is a different circumstance. It's a different you're trying to do different. And then I've had one that's aged out, which means they've gone out of 18, and that's a different experience too, because these are people that have been in an abusive environment. A lot of them have suffered trauma at an early age, and they do some crazy stuff that you wonder, what in the world? And it's a very difficult transition from them moving into a supervised environment like a residential treatment facility where there's somebody there all the time watching them, making sure they take their medications and things, and then they going out on their own and in the brave new world. And it's a difficult task. We had a seminar about that, and I think there are lots of things that CPS provides, but it's tough for somebody all of a sudden without really much family support to all of a sudden deal with adult issues.
Thank you, George.
Okay.
Bryn, would you like to go next? Introduce yourself and maybe how long you've been a CASA advocate.
My name is Bryn Hart, and I've been a CASA advocate, I believe, about 2.5 years, unless it's been 3.5. Time gets away. And I'm still on my very first case. And can I say about my case? So, I received 2 little girls who, I think that they came into the system in Hempstead. And there are not very many foster homes around here. So they were in a foster home in Houston. And I tried to work with their mom, who, car broke down in Hempstead and life was unraveling. And so I spent a whole day with her, and this was very frustrating because, there's certain things that parents need to do: take classes, get a job, get a place to live that's safe for the kids, and do so much when they are at the bottom. And she just wasn't able to get out of the bottom. So she lost her children. So it's very sad. And of course those children were just pining for her. And so anyway, foster homes I've found generally very good, but I've noticed that foster families, in my opinion, they really need so much more training of how to deal with children in trauma. And so it's been really sad for me to get a sense that, the mental judgment is the child's messed up, the child misbehaved, the child should be doing better. Just all these judgments about the child rather than unconditional love and working with a child that needs that total unconditional belonging and love to heal from the trauma. And so I see these parents, saying, help me. I want to foster this child lovingly, but they haven't been trained. So I think they're getting some training, but I'm not sure. I haven't been able to, attend any of the training that foster families get. So anyway, my little girls were together in their. I took them. One family had many material goods, but it wasn't working out, and loved them greatly, but it just wasn't the fit. So then I moved them. I got to drive them in their bicycles and all that to the new home, and that worked out for a while. But the foster mom just couldn't handle the younger child's off-track behavior when things weren't going her way. She didn't know how to cope and be there again, she didn't know how. It's just like I'm frustrated because I don't see the counseling system. I'm not aware of what they're getting in the form of counseling so that they can go beyond this trauma that they've had. So that's still something I want to investigate and learn more about. But anyway, the two little girls now are separated by about 75 miles. So they no longer have contact with their mom, and they barely have contact with each other. So this is breaking my heart too. So anyway, I finally I spent 14 hours, and I drove to Huntsville, picked up one, and drove to Houston, picked up the other, and then we went to the Children's Museum, and we went to Levy Park, and we had lunch at a pizza place, and they got to be together. And then I took them all back and got home at 8 o'clock. So, and they said, when can we do this again? So I'm hoping I can do it a couple more times this summer, but another struggle I have is talking to them on the phone, since both of them are more than 75 miles away. So I'm only required to see them in person every 3 months, not every month. And if I'm trying to keep up with them on the phone, they're just not good communicators on a cell phone. So, how's school going? Fine or bad? It's just, I just don't get the information. So those are some of I think I've told you more struggles than I have told you all the positives, but it is gratifying to know that for these two little girls, I am the most consistent part of their life for the last 2.5 years. And they greet me with huge hugs and I love you. And so I feel very gratified and happy that I have this relationship with them.
What has your relationship been with some of the other people in the case? Professionals, your supervisors?
Oh, I love my CASA supervisors.
No pressure.
No, I love my CASA supervisors. They have been so supportive.
That's not what you told me.
Yeah, so I just have to mention that, I wonder such and such, and somebody will hand me some information about it, or help me fill out my forms, or that's always, I feel very unconditionally loved.
Well, good. I'm glad to know that. Well, good. What about with CPS or the attorneys? What has your relationship been over the years with them?
I think these children have had maybe 3 CPS workers, maybe more. That's been,
Struggle.
people get sick and people move on to other jobs, and so that has also happened for this particular case. And as I said, another thing I worry about is, they see a psychiatrist who prescribes some medicine, and I have not agreed that this medicine is appropriate for an 8-year-old, and I felt helpless to do anything about that. And then, as I said, I don't know where their counselor, such as behavior, what are they counseling them in? I don't know, and it's hard to get the information.
Okay.
And to know if it is even possible to rewire the brain if they're only seeing a counselor once a month.
Right.
And I feel too removed to work on helping rewire the brain from trauma. So.
Right. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Do you have a part of this training specifically on early childhood trauma?
Yes, we're actually going to have a child therapist come and speak on the last day of training.
Well, I think what you're alluding to is that, CPS doesn't remove these children, despite what you may see in the newspapers or whatever, for no reason. There usually is a very good reason. You investigate it, you say, oh, well, this is not a suitable home for a child. But almost all of them that don't, and no matter what age you get, whether 15 or 1, have suffered some early childhood trauma, and that's what you're alluding to, and meaning neglect, physical or sexual abuse, all of those things. And according to therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists, it frequently takes them a very long time to rewire, if ever. And so when you have somebody that's like 6 or 7 years old and their behavior is unacceptable and destructive, you know, in school or whatever, a lot of it goes back to that early childhood trauma. So I would tell you that you're dealing with children who, to a certain degree, almost always are damaged merchandise. I mean, they are. And, you know, for instance, I told a friend of mine, she said, well, her daughter was going to adopt a child. And I said, well, fine. And she said, we went through the process, and I said, honestly, if she wants to eliminate a lot of problems, I would get a child right after birth, because if you get some cute little 3-year-old that's been removed from their parents by CPS, the chances are their brain needs rewiring, okay? And you won't notice that until they do something just crazy, and you say, what in the world's going on? And like, we don't know, as you said, a lot of time they're in therapy, but we don't know what the quality is. We don't have, and my daughter is a licensed professional therapist, and she says that she deals with people 25, 30, 35 years old. And a lot of their problems relate back to early childhood. So we deal with that all the time. You just deal with it the best you can, but we're not educated or expected to deal with that. We have to deal with the problem, but we might not be able to solve it. And it creates a difficult circumstance for both the CPS workers, for the CASA workers, for the family. It's almost always there, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
That these problems didn't start when they were 7 years old or 8 years old or 10 years old. They started at an early age, and they've damaged these children. And so we have to deal with it, and there's nothing you can do with it. And it's difficult at times.
Yeah, and not only the rewiring of the brain, but the building up of the brain, because any kind of stress, when a child's 0 to 5, the stress inhibits their frontal lobe from growing, from maturing, developing, is what I mean to say. And so they're already then behind mentally as well as emotionally.
Okay, well, thank you all very much.